almost performed in with my truck versus a more sized truck. Luckily, one of us was paying attention.
Okay, I let the intro run a little bit longer than usual, and guys, the feds have not found us. We're still secure in our various locations. So, good lunchtime. I missed you
It's
this
still
morning.
technically morning.
It is still technically, but barely morning. Um, yeah, I had a meeting that I had to go to, and funny story, I, I I left early. We skipped the show this morning, and we're doing one now because we skipped the. It's the week. Uh, I was supposed to have a meeting this morning, and funny story, I got there and they canceled the son of a bitch. I had to come all the way back here and hop onto a Zoom call for the same damn meeting. But, stuff happens. We got Steve and Lindsay watching. Hell yeah. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Uh, sorry about the random pop-up today. I am trying to do 2 shows a day this week, just on the heels of the big show that we did last week and the numbers coming in from that. That there are some developments in the works. I'm still waiting on some more feedback on that for Friday, and I'll be popping up and down live streaming from the Trump event on Sunday. It, there is an event in Covington, Georgia on Sunday from 2 to 4. I'll be there. Donald Trump will not be there. We'll have a bunch of our local politicians there, but it's a Trump rally without the man himself, unfortunately. Donald Trump will, however, be in Macon on Friday, and I'm still a little up in the air on how that one's going to shake out. I may or may not be attending. We'll see. So, several developments. Because I don't think that we're going to have to linger on it for very long, I'm going to start with the Barrett hearings. Today is the second day of the madness. Uh,
Today's the third day. This is the final day of hearings.
it's the third day of hearings. It's the second day of the madness. The madness being that everybody gets a half hour. And guys, like I was telling Cameron yesterday, I'm not going to end up watching the whole series of hearings. I've had to pick up the highlights, but even from the highlights, I can tell that it's this simple. I could have sat down and written a script for this, and it would have been almost verbatim. The Democrats have basically three things that they're going to accuse her of over and over again. Those three things are that basically that she's a Catholic, and that she's a whore, and that she's a Catholic. And that the second one of all three of those, obviously I say advisedly. The second one, the feminists are accusing this woman of having a clown car vagina. That's a direct quote. Guys, it's not weird to have children.
It's not even weird to have multiple children.
Now, it is somewhat less common to have nine. She's had seven, and they adopted two. But
I thought it was 5 and adopted 2.
no, I'm like 90% sure that she actually spat out seven of them. Um, and yeah, Lindsay points out. I saw the same meme Lindsay's talking about. There's a great meme running around. It's that wonderful shot of Amy holding up her
The,
blank notepad, and she's got this wonderful little smile on her face. Um, Good looking chick, by the way, and and that is important. That is a factor. Uh, and I we can go into that some other time. But she holds up the notepad that's blank because she's just answering these questions off the top of her head. And the meme says she has 7 kids. She's used to answering stupid questions. And yeah, I mean the people that she's talking to, these Democrats, they're
they have stacks and
they're
stacks
children.
of papers.
There's stacks and stacks of papers that somebody else wrote for them. Let's Okay. We're going to spend a little more time on this than I had intended to because let's go ahead and backtrack a little bit to a conversation that you and I were having yesterday, Cameron, off air, where basically we were talking about what clearly happens is somebody writes a list of talking points for the Democrats, and this is your script from which thou shalt not deviate. Then the individual Democrat hands it to a writer and says, try to make it look like I'm not copying someone else's homework. But they're a hive mind, right? And
Yes, it's all about severability, Obamacare, abortion, and Roe v. Wade over and over and
yep,
over and over and over again.
except for the rape allegations, but we'll get to that in a minute. Um, because Jesus Christ. But Cameron, you made a reasonable point, a good argument for that being a good way to do things, or even being the right way to do things. And I have a rebuttal for that we've already discussed. But go ahead and make your claim on it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You fire out 3 or 4 bullet points. This is the script. Go put it in your own language, and then everybody's on message. Because the one thing that you can say about Democrats is, yes, they are a hive. I mean, they are for the horde, no matter what the horde is doing.
Yeah, they're less for the horde and more the Zerg rush. Um, the For the horde, there's a dedication to the idea of the nation of the orc and the sovereignty of them as an organization. The Zerg, I think, is more appropriate. The Zerg rush seeks only to consume. It has no other objectives. It doesn't even concern itself with the health of the colony so much as it just expands and devours and destroys. And just like, to quote River Song, um, they want us alive when they eat us, and that's true. They want you alive when they eat you. They want you to survive and continue to earn so that they can continue to consume your labor. The objective of the rush of the Zerg is to make slaves of you. And they're already well on their way to having done that. Now, my rebuttal, of course, Well, first, in support of your argument there, the hive mind tactic, the unity, I mean,
Ooh.
when you take the sticks and you bundle them together, you take the fingers of the five boroughs and squeeze them into a fist that you can turn against the enemy at any time. That, that wasn't there a group that used that imagery and that metaphor to describe their activities?
Was there?
Yes, they're called the Italian Fascista. You know, the
Oh,
original actual fascists.
yes.
This was their symbol. And the reason the fist is displayed forward is to show the metaphor of the individual parts being bound together into a rod for striking and hurting you. That's what fascism is. Fascism is a governmental body based in socialism and the control of the means of production. This idea that the defining characteristic of fascism is authoritarianism is absurd. That is a defining characteristic of leftism and fascism, but it is not the defining characteristic. And authoritarianism is absolutely not the defining characteristic of the philosophy of the right. That is, in fact, the opposite. Um, and
So, so
go ahead.
just real quick, I wanted to touch on that Amy Coney Barrett meme that's just been memed and memed and memed and memed. My favorite one so far was actually in John Ward's latest video. She's holding it up, and it's got a picture of a helicopter, and it says, "Pinochet is my co-pilot."
Oh,
Oh,
oh, oh. You know, I have an old buddy that retired from the army recently that he does helicopter rides. He throws people out of helicopters on the weekends. They pay him to do that. So anyway, I told him when he told me that I told him he was my hero, but he knew that already. Both feet of him. Poor little guy. So now, of course, my problem with the hive mentality, especially in elected officials, is we are a representative republic. When you have a hive mind, like what is the Democrat Party, what you have is the people elect representatives, and then those representatives do not represent the people. They represent instead the party. But of course, the net benefit of that is you get to build a plantation of obedient voters who don't know anything about what's going on. They don't they don't understand um, that. For example, Obamacare. They keep going on about all these poor people that can suddenly afford their health insurance. Kamala Harris mentioned one woman in particular who, oh, I couldn't afford my health insurance for Obamacare, and now my premium is only $200 a month. That's a lie.
no, your premium's still $1,000 a month. You're just having $800 of it subsidized. Your premium
That's
didn't get any
correct.
cheaper.
But the policy still costs what it costs. It's
Oh
just that
yeah.
we're paying for it and you're
Well,
not. Now, and this is a very, very important distinction because it means that people who are earning a living, people who are doing what you do and making money and taking care of themselves, people who are not already living on the government dole have had their health care costs increased dramatically. My aunt is paying $2,300 a month. That's for a married couple with one dependent. And that's in Georgia. Okay, that's in Georgia where the health insurance premiums are about half what they are on average in California. So, back to your point about her policy cost her $1,000 a month, it's probably closer to three.
so I haven't been able to listen to all of the hearings. I've tried to, but like every now and then I at least have to turn them off to to focus on work for something specific. And since I don't know how much longer we're going to have Rush Limbaugh with us, I always give him an hour or two a day, every day.
Oh dear, Cameron.
And well, it's true.
No, you were suddenly
Okay, right.
like
I've managed to get about 3 or 4 hours a day at the hearings in, and she's just been, honestly, she's been masterful. Because they
yes.
hit her with these sob stories, and she always starts by giving an emotional reaction, but then just explains and then explains and explains and explains and explains and explains that, that's not how the law works. And Dianne Feinstein really tried to push her on this. I said, well, as an elected representative, I have to think about how this affects people. I have to. And she said, look, she basically said, look, I get it, but I mean, I already serve on one court and I'm about to serve on another court. I can't make the comment you're asking me to make. I can't. It violates legal canons. And they're trying so hard to box her in, asking her very specific things. Like I was listening this morning, again, actually, with Dianne Feinstein, and she was referencing the mental giant that was Anton Scalia. And at one point in time, Amy Coney Barrett has said that her judicial philosophy is basically Justice Scalia's philosophy. And so Feinstein's getting real specific about the things that she's pointing out. Do you agree with this? And do you agree with that? And she had a very fantastic response where she said, look, just because I agree with his philosophy doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with his conclusions. And since there's a possibility that these things that you're asking about could come back on the court, I can't comment on them. And what this in reference to specifically was there was some kind of voter scheduling law with regard to the Voting Rights Act that got struck down in Wisconsin. And it all came down to the fact that basically the math didn't work right anymore. So the fact that they wanted to change how they calculated who would vote where should be okay. And Scalia said that part of the reason why he thought it was good that this got struck down is because it contributed to continuation of racial inequality, that we're actually going to push a false narrative about how bad racism is in this country. And Dianne Feinstein tried very specifically to pin her down on that. And she literally busted out. Actually, with regard to that specific case, the only thing that was being decided was X, Y, and Z. So legally, I would concur with what happened. But as far as what Anton Scalia's personal feelings are, that doesn't mean that they're my personal feelings. And I'm just like, good God, she's a freaking razor blade, man. Because not only did she know the law, and even knew the specific portion of the law that was being decided, she was able to sidestep the whole, what was obviously a race-based question. At another point in time, she was asked about how it made her feel when she saw the George Floyd video. And I'm like, God, that was really stupid, because I could tell you what she's going to say. She's going to say it made me feel awful. And she did. She said it made her feel awful. And
It broke my heart to see this poor man who nobody ever loved enough to teach him that it's a bad idea to do a bunch of dope and then fight a cop.
so, yeah, don't want to spend too much time on it. But as somebody that has listened to it, listened to several hours of it, she wasn't my first choice. And, I said that on this show. But as far as how well she's able to just duck and bob and weave with these senators, it's pretty darned impressive.
Yeah. Well, I could keep going and talk about her more and more, but there's a piece of breaking news that I want to get to. We've already spent 20 minutes on Barrett, which is fine, but this is shoe buddy. In fact, you know what? You know what? Let's end this show right here and go right back live so that this comes out as two separate shows. Down?
Wait, what?
I'm going to cut the feed and then we're going to go live again immediately and talk about the Rittenhouse thing. That way it goes out as two 20-minute videos instead of 1 hour video.
Okay.
All right. So guys, we will be back with you right here in like literally just
30
as many minutes
seconds.
as it takes me to shut it down and start it back up.